Thank you. Friends, Rotarians, guests, Retractors, Happy New Year and welcome to the first fellowship in this calendar year. I'm glad to host you today. I'd also like to congratulate you all for making it in time. So today, for the fellowship roles, I'll hand over to past President David Kabisa to coordinate, and then we can move to the next phase.
Good afternoon, Rotarians. It is a privilege to be here in the new year, and thank you, President, for letting us and our body group be in charge. For the grace, I'm going to ask PDG Peter Mulira to give us a grace. The loyal toast will be done by Anthony Busura. The four-way test by Jesse Aineviona. The objects of Rotary by PP Sam Mutono. Maybe we can take it on from there at the moment. I'm trusting and hoping that they're online. Let me just
Peter Mulira is not there, I think.
Is not it there? All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Since there's Nampala here who's somebody's uncle, nephew, maybe CMP Nampala, could you do us the honors, please, sir? Did it drop off? I don't see him on now.
Yes, I am on.
Oh, yes, please go ahead, sir.
This is the grace.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you for the honors. And friends on call, Rotarians, interactors, Rotaractors, and guests, let's humble ourselves for the grace. For what we are about to receive and what we have received, and for this very first fellowship. We thank you, Lord, and we ask you to allow us to be ever mindful of the needs of others. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you. For the loyal toast, could I ask Anthony Busura?
Yes, yeah, PP David. Since it's lunch time and it's a new year, let's say this one. Some people have food but have no appetite. Other people have appetite but they have no food. Lucky are we who have both, and may the good Lord make us truly thankful and ever mindful of the needs of others.
And now, my young man, I think the sergeant needs to take note of the double portion that you've given us of the grace. But let me take this opportunity to toast to His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Uganda. To His Excellency, the President
of the Republic of
Uganda. Thank you. Rotarian Jesse, please lead us in the four-way test, whichever way you want.
Thank you, PP David. For the four-way test of the things we think, say, or do. First, is it the truth? Second, is it fair to all concerned? Third, will it build goodwill and better friendships? And fourth, will it be beneficial to all concerned?
Thank you.
Back to you, David.
Thank you. PP Sam Mutono, can you lead the club and the guests and other Rotarians into the reminder and the memory of the object of Rotary? And those who do not know it off head, I think the President will also be kind enough to just have it on the screen.
Okay, thank you, PP David. The object of Rotary. The object of Rotary is to encourage and foster the ideal of service as a basis of worthy enterprise, and in particular, to encourage and foster, first, the development of acquaintance as an opportunity for service. Second, high ethical standards in business and professions. The recognition of the worthiness of all useful occupations and the dignifying of each Rotarian's occupation as an opportunity to serve society. Third, the application of the ideal of service in each Rotarian's personal, business, and community life. And fourth, the advancement of international understanding, goodwill, and peace through a world fellowship of business and professional persons united in the ideal of service.
Sam, can everyone hear me? Hello, do people hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. PP David went silent.
Sorry.
Once again, welcome. Okay, welcome. Do you want to still proceed, or I can take over?
We're thinking, I didn't know, you might have some announcements or anything like that. If not, we can proceed to the speaker.
Okay.
I wanted to get clarified from you, yeah.
I have some small to welcome us all. In terms of announcements, just to re-emphasize that COVID is still with us, and we still need to embrace the SOPs and stay safe wherever we are. And also to encourage our Rotarians and friends, Rotractors, that our drive to support our service projects is still going on. And is that from my network? Somebody else? I'm hoping it's not from me.
I think there's
someone called Nakate, past President Nakate.
President, you can go on.
She's been muted. So I wanted to, yes, I was mentioning that our drive to mobilize for our projects is still going on. As you know, the schools are books and any reading materials, including newspapers, that we can use to support our project schools. So Rotarians who have these, feel free to donate them to us in whatever form. And then our drive to support the young mothers with sewing machines. We have so far raised resources for about 15 sewing machines to support the Roses of Mbuya. And as we mentioned, you can donate a sewing machine in kind or the equivalent of a sewing machine, which is 350,000 shillings. So the drive is on, and we are hopeful that this will be a major highlight of our charter celebrations that will happen next month, when we recognize our achievement of 52 years as a Rotary Club. So for any further information, our Director for Service Projects can be reached, and that is a PP Samwire. So at this point, I want to invite any Rotarian who might have Rotary information to feel free to unmute and announce before we move on to have the guest speaker. I see that CP Sam has his hand up. CP Sam, can you unmute and speak?
Thank you very much, President. Happy New Year to all of us on call. It's just a reminder that it's exactly 3 months and a few days, probably 20 or 19, to the district conference in Naivasha. We only have January, February, and March. April, we head to Naivasha. So it's just a reminder that the midterm rate expired on the 31st of December. So anyone who wants to go to Naivasha now is paying $200 if they are Rotarians and $150 if they're Rotaractors. Transport is already clear. Please kindly, if you don't have onto Discon officer, appoint one so that you're able to get all the information partaking going to Naivasha. But just to say that it's a last final wrap. So to Simbu Day, so we hope to have a great end of year of celebrating the Changemaker service. Thank you.
Thank you, Chapter President Sam. If there are no, I don't see any other hands up. I wanted to hand back to David for the introduction of the guest speaker.
All right, thank you very much, President. And once again, greetings to everybody who is on call today. We are privileged to have as our speaker none other than the PDG Tusu, and he will be formally introduced. The topic is the pride of vocation, the foundation of Rotary. Those of you who know him, you would know that he's ably suited to speak on this subject. And I wanted to give the honor to our Rotaract president, Simon Chomuhendo, to be the one to introduce Tusu, a very modest individual, but we hope that the introduction will do him justice. But Simon, why don't you go ahead and introduce our speaker to the people that are on call? Thank you.
Thank you, Rotarian David. Kindly let me know if I'm audible enough.
Yes, you are.
And thank you, President Susan. Our guest speaker is a retired academic and practicing ICT expert and is the managing partner of Knowledge Consulting Limited. Tusu is a Rotary citizen with a foundation in Rotary, with his foundation in the Rotary Club of Kampala North. He's passionate about service to the community and people development, especially the young people. He continues to serve within and outside Rotary in various capacities at national, regional, and international levels. He's married to PDG Dorcas of the Rotary Club of Sunrise Kampala, with whom they are deeply involved in supporting communities both through and outside Rotary. They are jointly major donors on level 3. Ladies and gentlemen, receive Rotarian Tusu.
Thank you very much, Simon, for that introduction. I pray for you because you said sunshine instead of sunrise when the president and others of that club are around. So you could be in a bit of trouble. At Rotarians, Rotaractors, friends and family of Rotary, it's really a pleasure to join you today. Good afternoon and a happy, and I should add, healthy new year. We know we live in challenging times, but I also believe that the psychological worry is sometimes bigger than the physical consequences. I'm one of those who feel that we should take as much care as possible, but also continue living our normal lives as much as possible so that we're not driven indoors, if you like, into prison by viruses. President Susan, thank you for this opportunity of engaging the Rotary Club of Kampala West. This club, colleagues, if you didn't know, is one of our oldest clubs, 51 years old, going back to 1970. This even predates the presidency, the governorship of Sam Owori, who put in the bust for club growth. And therefore, they are part of our founding clubs in our district, in our country. It's also a club I've had the opportunity to visit and engage throughout my Rotary life, and I literally mean throughout. I've been at all their venues, including at that time, I think it was Nile Hotel. And I've got a lot of respected elders and friends in this club, and therefore, I feel very, very privileged. And I should start with a discussion, Susan and colleagues, that our discussion today will pull in multiple threads and might occasionally meander into the intellectual, but this is never a challenge for Rotarians and Rotaractors, and most certainly not for the Rotary Club of Kampala West. Now, those of you who have read the Bible will remember one of the deeply philosophical statements found in the Gospel according to St. John, chapter 1, verse 1, which says, somebody could kindly mute or jumbo and others, yes. And John chapter 1, verse 1 says, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. Now, don't worry, I'm not launching into a religious discourse, much as I would have loved to do that if I was permitted in the Rotary Club, but rather reflecting on the complexity and the power of words. It is simply amazing. Because when you think about it, words are just a collection of sounds, and they remain meaningless until cultures or ways of life give them meaning. Words then become potent tools that can be used for good or for evil. And therefore, I'm always cautious when I make a presentation predicated on people's understanding of specific words. And in this case, we're talking about the word vocation. We're talking about the pride of vocation, the foundation of Rotary. And therefore, I must necessarily, President and colleagues, start by looking at the definition as I understand it. Now, if you look at the etymology of vocation, you find that it started appearing in the English language sometime in the 15th century. And when you go further back, you find that it has got its roots in Latin, vocatio, vocatio meaning summons. And therefore, it used to have that kind of meaning in the early days. So when it had the meaning of a summons, and I quote, from God to perform a particular task or function in life, especially a religious career. But this started transitioning, and therefore when you come to the secular world, vocation points to a strong desire to do a certain kind of work, or sometimes the work itself. And is therefore given the related meanings, which are sometimes mixed up of a calling or occupation. And as we go through this discussion, I hope we shall get the distinction among those different words. We, however, know that the pressures of basic survival, peer pressure, parental pressure, often mean that many people's occupations are not their callings, which creates a permanent and destructive tension in their lives. And let's face it, colleagues, if you're a social worker or a medical doctor or a teacher, and you do not enjoy your work when you're even being paid for it, how likely is it that you'll be happy to provide the same service on a voluntary basis? And that is sometimes part of our challenge as we get into our topic. And therefore, we find that service, instead of lighting you up internally, becomes a painful chore to be avoided. Before we dig into vocational service, let us go back a bit and examine how did vocational service emerge as one of the Rotary avenues of service. Now, I know some of you know because I've seen some very experienced Rotarians online, but many of the newer Rotarians might not know that if we go back to the earlier days of Rotary, Rotary had only two objectives. One of them was the promotion of friendship, and the other one was the promotion of business interests. That is how Rotary started. This was indeed the foundation of the classification principle, whose sole purpose was to ensure that there was no competition for business among the club members. Now, if you have read the Century of Service by David Forward, this book was released at the Osaka Convention. I'm proud to have a signed copy signed by David Forward, the author. He says that the reciprocal exchange of business was a central theme in early Rotary. And indeed, one of the most important club officers was the statistician. And these statisticians maintained a careful record of such business transactions to be sure that each member was benefiting. Later on, about 10 years later, Arch Clamp, the founder of the Rotary Foundation, observed that the first 5 years of Rotary are nothing which Rotary can be proud of. Later, because of that, many, prominent among them being a Rotarian called Skiller from the Rotary Club of Seattle, argued strongly against the single classification system, which they believed was detrimental to the growth of Rotary. And this meant that they had to come up with a change. This actually started with the Rotary Club of Seattle, and they developed what they called the platform, the Rotary platform for the club. Now, this platform departed from the original intent that Rotary is about creating friendships, essentially actually a social club, if you read the actual object as it was, and ensuring that we exchange businesses, and said that we need to do a bit more than that. And the platform promoted the education and development of Rotarians through the study of businesses and professions other than their own. And you can start understanding how the classification talks started, because you wanted to know what each person does. It sought to establish the ethical standards of business and professions, because at that time they were literally non-existent. And it also sought to recognize the equal worthiness of all legitimate occupations. Now, colleagues, since we normally recite the object of Rotary, I'm sure this will sound very familiar. The second part of the object of Rotary, in which we recognize vocations and ethics and recognizing the worthiness of all useful occupations. Now, because the club liked it, they tried to propose it to Rotary International, but the 1911 convention rejected it. They did not give up, and they tried again in 1912. And that time the platform was accepted. And this started the long journey of evolution from our initial philosophy, which was friendship and business boosting, to a new philosophy, which was friendship and service, which is why I always talk about the development of acquaintance as an opportunity for service. And therefore, vocational service as one of the foundations, one of the avenues of Rotary was born at that time. Even if it was not actualized until the mid 20s, 1920s, that's when it was actually actualized. I believe it was 1927, when the avenues of service were formally enunciated. At that time too, currently 5. And therefore, vocational service tries to get us as Rotarians to connect the ideals of Rotary to our trades and professions. Now, the ideals include ethics, they include service, and they include leadership excellence. And within Rotary, we try to promote the values of, within our vocations and trades, we then try to promote the values of Rotary, so that ethical standards and leadership excellence and everything can also be transferred to the business environment. So this is how it all started. In other words, our vocations expressed through service are our reasons for being Rotarians. A reason I feel President and others we sadly forget all too often. Increasingly, we find that our clubs, both old and new, are sliding back to our founding days, where the philosophy was friendship and business boosting. The days which arch clubs said nothing Rotary can be proud of. Now, we're not saying that there should be no business benefit, but we should not lose focus on the essence that this is principally about service. So the question then is, how do we reverse the trend? How do we get our Rotarians back into service? President Susan and members of Rotary Club of Kampala West, how do you reignite the pride of vocation in your club and in other clubs as the expression of service in our personal, in our business, and in our community lives? That is our challenge today. And therefore, I invite you on a journey of reflection, in the assurance that I hope that by the end of our reflection, we shall find the triggers where as individuals or as clubs, we can go back to our roots and start making a real difference. Now, ladies and gentlemen, in our late teenage and college days, we generally lack formed identities. This is a reality of life. It's not a condemnation of any person. And therefore, if you remember, those who are still young still do, and those who are young remember, we would tend to use the school where we are. I am from Mwiri, I am from Bodo, I'm from Gayaza, as part of identification. And then later on, I'm offering, as they say nowadays, I don't know what they offer, that I'm offering law at Makerere University. And that is your identity, but that is not an identity, because these are socially defined circumstances. And therefore, creating identity is a challenge, because throughout our development years, from childhood to teens through to college, we are bombarded with value systems. At college, we read more widely and we find even more of them. We meet diverse people. And therefore, from this complex mixture, just like life started from the primordial soup, we as individuals are required to start developing our individual values, developing our individual identities, And therefore, each individual faces this challenge of starting to fully define their own personal values, and through that creating a distinctive identity that can stand firm against the storms of life. So that when you talk about some like J.B. Mukasa, because our koja, because the koja of the queen, my wife, he's a man of clear character and values. You know what he is. If you talk about David Kaviswa or anybody on forum, Apoloche, they know who they are. And therefore they will stand up against something which goes against their values. Now, for some, this takes a short time. For some, it takes somewhat longer. And sadly, for some, this never happens. And those are the people who are swayed by the direction of the crowds or the club without having any clear principles. This same life, this same stage, ladies and gentlemen, our youth and college days, is also the critical stage at the time to decide if we are studying what is aligned with our vocation. Let's go back to vocation. It is a passion, it is a calling, it is something we enjoy doing. Once you are forced into a profession, either by peer pressure or parental pressure or by circumstances, to lead a life where your profession is not your vocation, then you can never hope for the pride of vocation, because that level of excellence will never be achieved. Of course, these young people need guidance, and you can't blame this on anybody. I think what is sad is that most of our young people, right from senior secondary school, which is the right time, make decisions without the benefit of guidance about that alignment. And incidentally, and off the topic, I see that as an opportunity, President Susan and others, for us to intervene as Rotarians and Rotractors. Our young people get lost in life because at that critical stage, they lack the right guidance. There are a few, and here I can cite my business partner, Ali Ndwalana. Ali got a first class in architecture in Makerere University, and this was the mid-90s. At that time, I was in charge of starting ICT support in Makerere in the late 90s, and came and said to me that, you know what, Tusu, I want to take on a life in information and communication technology. And since that time, we have been working together, and he's one of the best. He didn't study it, but he's among the best, both nationally, regional, and internationally. So this is the kind of alignment we are talking about and why it is important. Now, to get on to how we can handle this, permit me to share a slide, President. Just one slide. We're not going to go into this by PowerPoint. Can everybody see that slide?
Yes, we can.
Yes, you can. Okay. So let's think about this slide. I've switched off my camera so that we can see it more clearly. We are all familiar with Maslow's triangle of needs. If we are not, we should. Now, it may not be academically rigorous, and again, many of us know that, not necessarily everybody, but people relate to it very easily because we can relate our stages of life easily to this model. I would actually argue that each of us, if honest, can objectively, rather than wishfully, identify where they are at in life with respect to this triangle. And that goes all the way from the physiological needs right up to the transcendence level. Each of us can identify. I would also argue that we can map the membership of any Rotary Club or Rotract Club to this triangle, and that the level of vocational excellence and pride of vocation, which comes with a participation in service and giving in that club, will be determined by where the center of gravity of that club falls here. And therefore, should it happen, it doesn't happen often, that the center of gravity of your Rotary Club falls at the belonging and love needs level, then it is going to be a very social club, enjoying fellowships and everything, and so on, and home hospitalities and the parties, but it will not be doing a lot of service. And as you go up, you see that the focus on selfish needs increases, and the focus on selfless growth increases. And we find that in our early lives after college, we all start off with occupations which become our professions. But to utilize those occupations basically as a means of progressing through the different levels described by Maslow. You need to get enough food on the table. You need to have accommodation. You need to be able to cook your food. Eventually, you need to have friends and circles and so on. You need to find a spouse, a partner, and you continue growing, but you're utilizing your vocation as a tool for your personal growth so that you can address your deficiency needs. Again, nothing wrong with that. But that attention is on self. Then as we grow through the levels, our altruism, our selflessness starts growing all the way until we get self-transcendence. When you talk about transcendence, because the level below that is self-actualization, a lot of that is still about self, but transcendence, and often called self-transcendence, means that everything you do in life looks beyond you. You are looking at your impact on others, how you can serve, how you can improve the communities, how you can improve the country, and maybe even the globe, the difference that you can make. And therefore, this is a challenge we must face, all of us. To get service above self, we need to grow along this triangle. And I'm going to go through because I'm now getting to the crux of the matter. Our vocation, as we depart from selfishness, stops being a tool about us improving ourselves. And instead becomes a potent tool to be used in the service of others and our bigger environment. And that's what service above self means. And this must be the final destination of any Rotarian or Rotractor who wishes to be truly a Rotarian, getting self-transcendence so that you can actually then actualize that Rotary motto of service above self. Now, when we examine our Rotary clubs, we are going to find two distinctive categories of people that we need to address. The first category are the younger members. And colleagues, we need to attract young members because they come with a lot of energy. They come with creativity and they come with future potential, which is necessary for the survival of Rotary. Inevitably, because they are young, these are going to be mostly at the bottom of the triangle of needs, or the bottom half for that matter. People don't come from the same backgrounds. But like it or not, young people tend to fall in the bottom half, where they are still trying to address deficiencies in their lives. There's nothing wrong with that, colleagues. This makes then people development a core but neglected part of all our Rotary clubs. I know we focus a lot on Rotary training, but it is rare to find clubs, apart from the occasional talks, focusing on people development as one of the key responsibilities of the club. President, hope I'm still on. I'm getting a message which talks about poor connectivity. Please confirm.
You're still on,
sir.
Yeah, okay, great. And therefore, we need to grow these younger people into members, into the kind of individuals who understand and will in time progress to self-transcendence, where true service above self is actualized. We must remember that Rotary has transitioned from the days more than 50 years ago, when only the executive suite, and these are the chief executive officer, chief engineer, chief information officer, chief accountant, were the people already at the level of self-actualization. These are the ones who became members. I saw Stephen Mwanje online, my friend Stephen. He will tell you that when he was introduced to Rotary Club of Kampala the first time, he was rejected because he was not yet in the C-suite. They said, no, we need only top people. These were people at the level of self-actualization. And from that time, about 50 years ago, we started admitting younger and younger members in order to ensure the survival of Rotary. But in doing that, we forgot that we're bringing people who need personal development as individuals, not Rotary knowledge. And therefore they come in, we pump them with Rotary knowledge, and they get totally lost because they don't understand what Rotary is about. So you start getting a president who is still looking for esteem needs. Now, guys, if you have a president who is looking for esteem needs, that's not their fault. It means the club did not develop them. But these are the people who don't give them the title of president are going to fire up, say, I am the president. Why aren't you calling me the president? That's because he's a very good administrator, but we're still looking for esteem needs, a deficiency. Let's face that as a reality. And therefore, the training role in the clubs is taken too lightly in most clubs, often being routinely relegated to the immediate past president, even when such people know nothing at all about pedagogy or people development. If we take training right in the club, we are destroying the club. Then the second category we have in all clubs are the older members. And these include those who joined when training in Rotary was just about Rotary and never focused on people development. Now, many of these are past presidents, and I'm not just talking about Kampala West presidents, Susan, I'm talking about all our clubs. You find that a lot of our past presidents still struggle with those needs, esteem needs, cognitive needs, sometimes even belong and love needs, and yet we're looking for leaders at the level of self-transcendence.
But you know,
many are past presidents, sometimes for silencing those microphones. They missed the boat and faced the challenge of being called. They missed the boat and faced the challenge of being called senior Rotarians when they are totally lost. Colleagues, that can be very embarrassing when everybody around looks up to you, and yet you know that you actually don't know what they want. You know, you cannot help at all. And therefore, these people exist in a terrible space. Most do not have the humility to admit that they are lost, and will therefore voice weighted views and opinions that carry destructive influence. They fail to be an example to the club in terms of availability, contribution, and participation, and that sets trends and cultures in the club. And yet they are valuable source to the club, and I'm not saying that we should push them out because they embody its history and its ethos. The elders in the club are very important because of that. They literally carry the personality of the club in them. And we must face the reality then that even if we are the elders, learning and relearning is now an entrenched way of life. And therefore the club has got a responsibility. These elders will need a different approach and must be handled separately. But it still comes down to training by those who know how to handle people of that age, to handle learning and change for this group. And again, this goes back to the training role in clubs, which our president, Susan, have said is neglected. It is taken as token, and it focuses too much on Rotary knowledge without focusing sufficiently on people development. And it is very evident that any club, including Kampala West, we need to have a training committee as one of its most important committees. And that clear terms of reference and targets at the outcome and impact level, not outputs. Don't please report that we have held 10 trainings this year. It is totally meaningless. What has happened as a consequence of that training? What has changed in terms of giving? What has changed in terms of participation in service projects? That's what we are looking for. What has changed in terms of member satisfaction? We need to monitor that. It is also evident that clubs will need to seek training capacity from outside their membership for people building and transformation, not Rotary knowledge. That might sound terrible, but nowadays all the Rotary knowledge is online. What is not always clear, even if it is online, is how we can change ourselves and move up the ladder so that we can get to a level of self-transcendence. Now, finally, as already hinted, we need to monitor. And it is important that the monitoring framework should start at the individual level. The failure to do this is one of our greatest shortcomings in Rotary. You know, it is interesting that we say in Rotary that our volunteer human resource, our members, are the most important asset we have in our clubs. And yet we tend to treat them as a group rather than as individuals. Try treating the children in your family like a group and see how they develop. Each person is an individual. Human resource management requires that the organization, in this case the club, has knowledge of each Rotarian at the individual level, plans their development at the individual level, and monitors them at the individual level. And the individual should have access to their progress in terms of trends in participation in activities, volunteering through vocation and in and outside Rotary, giving leadership, participating in learning activities and other metrics. If we elevate the individual Rotarian, we elevate the service in the club, and we elevate the pride of vocation colleagues. This is what we must do. That kind of capacity is not going to be developed through talks. Talks can only point to the areas of potential weakness and potential solution, but the clubs must come down to it and really work. Therefore, President Susan, Rotarians of Kampala West, ladies and gentlemen, and others on the call, achievement of excellence, that comes with pride of vocation, the service above self, that is the foundation of Rotary, will not be achieved through talks, and I keep on saying that, but through consistent action at the individual and club levels as a perpetual activity. There's no point of arrival because we can not plan to stop. As the quotation often attributed to Aristotle says, we are what we repeatedly do. Excellence then is a habit, not an event. Thank you, President. Thank you, colleagues. And back to you, President Susan. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you very much, PDG Tusu. I almost used the word professor. But of course, since you did mention that you touch a little bit of the academia, it came through. It came through. Thank you. This has been very exciting in terms of a wide range of information has been covered, a wide range of advice has been given. Rotarians, guests, my role this afternoon is to facilitate your questions, and I'm hoping that you can use the chat and we see what is there. You have heard the wide range. In fact, it's almost sacrilegious. He said not too much about information, not talks, but the whole element of personal development and things like that. Interesting. Okay, so may I start off with the PP James Serusa? Your hand is up. Please unmute your mic and have the privilege of asking the first question.
Even the contributions are welcome, David.
All right, contributions too. So Rotarian PP James Serusa first, and then B. Okello from Naguru.
Thank you, Rotarian President, and thank you, Past President David. I must first voice my surprise. I thought PDG Tusu was a scientist, as they are defined these days. But I was surprised that he's very adept with the soft issues, which is the point I want to comment on. Thank you very much, Rotarian Tusu. What you are touching on is very crucial, not only for Rotary, but for many aspects of life in this country and beyond. I was just wondering whether the starting point is really the club. Should it be the district as a minimum? Can't we put in place a mechanism to make this happen? Because it is, what you have spelled out really is at the center of the future of Rotary. Is it possible to develop a mechanism to foster this, to enhance it from the district so that it becomes, you know, Rotary being structured, people look to the center for guidance, and it might be easier to get the message across. And the message you are carrying is very, very, very important. But I don't know whether it is shared across the district. I submit.
Thank you very much, Rotarian Serusa. We shall take like 3 and then I'll allow PDG to respond. If possible, we try to make it like a conversation. Okello from you had your hand up.
Yes, my hand is up.
Please unmute and
Thank you very much, CMP, Ajok, and our guest speaker, Tusu. First, I must say that I was expecting to hear some West African accent. And then I realized that Tusu will be a short form of maybe Tusubira or to something, which is quite pleasant. I'm from the E-Club of Naguru, Rotary E-Club of Naguru. And one thing has really caught my attention in that the guest speaker mentioned something about promotion of business and creating friendship to become friendship and service. I'd like a little bit more to understand, because my club was only chartered a couple of months ago, 29th June 20, in this troublesome COVID year. So I'd like to know a bit more that link and what it actually entails in terms of practice, taking the last point he made about less talk and more action. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. And there's a question here that I just want to read, such that PDG, when you're handling, you handle them together. Somebody just said, in simple terms, what is vocation? Because all other clarifications depend on this definition. Okay. And then PP Mutono says, any Rotary Club practicing what you're talking about, I think goes back to a little bit of what Rotarian officer said. This is eye-opening, and you're linking up Rotarian officer's question and then the experience of the E-Club. How do you take this thing forward? Yes, sir. Over to you.
Thank you very much. I thought you're also going to take Peter, because this question might have the answers to the rest. Can we do that, please?
Please do it. Is it Peter Mkurus? Please
yes,
take it.
Salongo Peter Mukuru.
Okay. Have you said? Yes, please. Hand up. Peter, please. Yep. Please go ahead.
Thank you, David, and Happy New Year, everybody. Happy New Year. I must say this PDG too soon. Anyway, on a serious note, Tusu, thank you so much for the conversation this afternoon. You talked of your partner, or your business partner, who did architecture, I believe, and then chose a path of ICT and sought your guidance, and certainly has become better. I want to draw on that and look at our institutions vis-a-vis our individuals, ourselves as individuals and our passions. There's that saying, and I say it with all humility, you can take a horse to the river, but you can't make it drink. At what moment do we take personal responsibility for the things we want? We give talks, and I'm sure we are about to ask you for that slide you made. When you make any talk with a presentation, everybody wants a presentation. How do we become passionate, or how do we encourage ourselves or to become passionate about their own growth? We say we are volunteers, but there is always that 20-80 rule. You find it's only the 20 people who are showing up and so on. So how do we invert this and say, look, the club is there, it's a vehicle, but ultimately maybe myself must take responsibility for what I want to do in terms of volunteering or learning or enhancing my vocation. Your comment would be most appreciated. Thank you, Tusu.
Okay, thanks a lot, Peter. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, my elder James Serufusa. Starting at the district level, I believe this has to be a multi-pronged approach. I put it to the club level because we recruit these individuals as members. And in my view, the moment you have accepted somebody as a member, you accept some responsibility for the person's growth of transformation. It is that kind of quiproquo, because if we support them in personal growth, this is how they also excel on the other side of it. And I'm glad Mr. Serufusa, I'm sorry, I find it difficult to call Mr. Serufusa James, because He's my elder, so permit me to use that. And therefore, you need to give this person the opportunity to grow, which is also going to translate to whatever they do in their profession and business. And that's the benefit I see in Rotary. I know many people see it as simply making money out of something Rotarian has told you to do, but I see the benefit for Rotarians in Rotary, the learning opportunities they can get in Rotary, which then benefit their business lives and personal lives and everything. Therefore, I would say that, yes, we need to start at both levels. The district has got a responsibility, but the club is the member of Rotary International. We have responsibility for our members. The performance of our members may reflect on the district at a secondary level, but at a primary level, they reflect on the district. And therefore, the better they are, the better for the club and the more inspired the club is going to be. So I don't disagree with you, but I think we need to have a bit of both. I should mention that somebody said, is this being practiced anywhere? And I think that was Motono. I'm mixing up the questions, I'll get to each of them. And the answer is no. Why is the answer no? Colleagues, I'm one of those people who feel that when a club approaches you to have a discussion with them, you need to look for something which is appropriate and fresh rather than bringing things they can go and simply read about. I think, so it is new because I've not thought about it to that level before, but by being invited by Susan, I was forced to think about it to a deeper level. And that's where that comes from. Now, going back to B. Okello. B, you hid your name, I don't know why, from the Club of Naguru. What does the B stand for? If I may ask.
B is Beatrice.
Beatrice. Okay, yes. Thanks. Thanks a lot, Beatrice. Apoyo. Promotion of business. I said Rotary started purely for personal benefit. This is sometimes forgotten. This is part of our past. So the original intent was, let's have a meeting. Okay, the loneliness came with creating a social club because Rotary started a social club. Actually, if you read the very object as it is written, it was friendship and other desiderata that are found in a social club. That's what it said. And then after that was promoting each other's business. And then you have the club statistician compiling everything and reporting at every meeting that this is what it is. But the Rotarians quickly realized that that path was not sustainable because they were building up resentment in the community. And you can imagine, if you create a community clique, which is simple about yourselves, you are going to create suspicion, you are going to create antagonism and hatred. And because it's shrouded in secrecy, people become suspicious. And therefore, service started coming in almost voluntarily from the individual members until the force became so great that the philosophy had to change from friendship and doing business together to friendship and doing service together. And that transition still continues. I hope that is clear, Beatrice. So that's where that comes from. If you get a chance to read a book called The Century of Service, it has got all the entire Rotary history in its entirety, very well compiled. In simple terms, what is vocation? This is why I started. I'm scared of words because they can be misinterpreted. And that's why I went back to the original meaning, the vocatio, a calling which started a religious calling, because that has got the implication of selflessness. Because at least in those days, these days has changed, but at least those days, a religious calling. So Livingstone coming to Africa as a missionary, or whoever, or Apollo Chivebulaya going to Congo as a missionary, that was not about earning money, it was about achieving an ideal. And therefore we are called upon to achieve our ideals in Rotary through service. And therefore vocation is something you are passionate about. In my book, if you're not passionate about it, it might be your occupation, but it's not your vocation. So you start by training for a professional trade. That is a profession. It is dictated by the things you learned at school, in college, your apprenticeship, and so on. That is your profession. But are you passionate about your profession? And if the answer is yes, then your profession is your vocation, becomes your occupation. Since you enjoy doing it, you always go for excellence. When you enjoy doing something, go for excellence. I'll give the example of our daughter. Some of you might know her as Sanyo Kolo. She's a singer and she's a leader in Worship Harvest Ministries. She was excellent in music right from senior secondary school. So I said to her after senior 6, I said, Angela, but why don't you take up music? And then she said, and then what after that? What do I do? And then when she went to study in South Africa, she said, Daddy, I have an opportunity to join the choir, but we shall be traveling a lot in South Africa. And I said, please continue. Never give up anything you're passionate about, because eventually that's what your life means. That's what life is about as far as we are concerned. So I hope I have answered that question. In simple terms, a vocation is something you can do and passionate about. It could be caring for children. Some people love figures, by the way. Some people love abstract mathematics and so on. Some people love flowers. I know the Queen loves flowers. Others love teaching. And therefore, the love word must be there before what you do for it to be a vocation. Now, Peter, there's something I should have said because it answers part of your question. That looking at the ideal should not distract us from the reality. Now, the ideal is that we all descend to the level and get self-transcendence. That is the ideal. The reality is that the repeated assertion by many clubs that when it comes to a true expression of pride or vocation, they still conform to the 20/80 myth. Peter, I don't call that a rule because I've always insisted it is a myth. People take that myth and becomes a very good crutch rather, an excuse to stand up. If your leadership fails, members are not getting involved, you say, but they are conforming to the 20/80 rule. So you excuse yourself from the responsibility of ensuring that you have got 100 rule by saying that, well, normally this is what we expect. Yet none of us in their organization or in their business would ever accept that, yes, 20% of my workers do odd work, the other 80% do nothing, because then the question is, why don't you sack the other 80% so that you have got 100% doing your work? I hope that answers your question. At what moment do we take responsibility for personal change? Peter, I believe at all moments of our lives. But the moment you join an organization, that organization also has a responsibility. So your parents have the responsibility of raising you as a child. Your school has the responsibility of doing the best with you, your college, and so on. I believe each organization we join shares the responsibility, because by perfecting or improving us, the organization also benefits. I hope that answers your question, Peter. Thanks. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you very much, PDG Tusu. Very, very insightful indeed. And that's why I think the nature of questions that actually came the way it came. It is obvious that this question is not over. And I like the way that one of the things you intimated was you're challenging President Susan of taking this thing to the next level. You have actually opened up our eyes. And I think, like I think Christoph said earlier, he was intimating, we're starting from the district. I know there's a saying that says, what gets measured gets done. And I think from the way you've defined vocation in a relatively new side, and when we look at the things we do and what we measure in our clubs, it is little wonder that we're not focusing on developing the individuals. But you have given us food for thought. And with all due respect now, I'd want to call a fellow academician, Martin Luanga, to give a vote of thanks in hopefully not in superfluous language, but IPP Martin Luanga, please, the honors is yours to give us a vote of thanks. Thank you.
Thanks. Before IPP comes in, can I also add that I did mention only Ali, but when I was associate dean in the Faculty of Technology, we had many students, and they would come to me and say, what? I'm going to finish my degree here, and then I'm going to do this, and I still track them. So it's not a single isolated incident. It is very common in our institutions. Thanks.
Good to hear. Thank you for that addition. IPP Martin, over to you.
Yes, thank you very much, Dr. Tusu, as you prefer, I believe, to be known.
Doctor.
But we want to thank you so much for being available. I was intrigued by your long relationship with our club and talking about when we were meeting at Nile Hotel. So that is way back. And so I thank you for working with us through this journey, visiting us regularly and being available whenever called upon. And I was also very intrigued by your topic, vocational, because everyone is now talking about vocational. As you know, those of us who are involved in academic world, one of our greatest pain is to train young people and they end up on the streets. But I was much moved, especially when you shared about your daughter's experience and the fact that a vocation is also doing something which one is passionate about. And I think that is a message which we can all take home. I was also very intrigued by you putting up that Maslow hierarchy from a scientist, and you've really unpacked it very well. And I think you have a message for all of us, Rotarians, of how we can reach out to various categories. I think one of the challenges we can have in Rotary is to have a single-minded tunnel vision where we are catering for only one group of people. But I think you've reminded us that Rotary attracts people with different needs. And I think the burden is for us as Rotarians to see how we are able to attain to the needs of all the different categories, those who are at level of just even the needs which are basic, just shelter. Then there are those who are looking for esteem, and then those who have made it and are looking for self-actualization. So thank you so much, and I think it is.
Thank you very much for those kind words. I should state for the record that I'm neither science nor arts. I have never recognized knowledge boundaries in my life, so I cut across.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Over to you, President, now. Oh, okay, sorry, Martin, continue.
For this first meeting of the year, and our visitors, we really thank you so much. Keep coming, and we shall also revenge by visiting your club. And I wish you a happy new year. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Martin. Thank you very much indeed. CMP Susan, thank you. Over to you.
Thank you, PP David. I'll also add my voice to the voices of others. My very good friend, Tusu, as he prefers to be called. You have challenged us as a club, and also I think me, who is in the hot seat as the president, to really rethink this whole idea of vocation. I think you've inspired us to consider 2022 as the year when we consider new challenge and a new journey, where we can also reconsider how to use our skills to connect with Rotary. We thank you very much for that. We are coming to the end of our fellowship. We will invite Rotarian Anthony, who will give us a roll call of the clubs. And I want to also invite my good friend CMP Charles Podaga, who will give us the final toast, and we will depart at will. Thank you. Over to you, Rotarian Anthony, for the roll call of clubs.
Yeah, thank you, President. Members, I have a list of clubs, but for members who have had their clubs, their names and their clubs, or have put them in the chat, if you haven't and you don't hear your name, you will unmute and speak out the name of your club. We've had, let me first recognize a strong man in that district. We've had PDG Stephen Mwanje. Thank you for coming. We've had our guest speaker, PDG Tusu. Thank you for coming. We've had DGN Francisco Semwanga from Rotary Club of Natete. Thank you for coming. Greetings to District 9214. And we've had representatives from the following clubs: Rotary Club of Naguru, Rotary Club of Arua Eco City. And let me pause a bit on Arua Eco City. They have a fundraising towards towards their project, Hope Again project. So CMP Sharon is inviting us to attend their fellowship today and also participate in that fundraising of their project. We've had representatives from Rotary Club of Kasangati, Rotary Club of Sunrise Kampala, and Sunrise Kampala, you've really tsunamied us. Thank you. We shall revenge. Rotary Club of Kampala South, thank you for coming. We've had representation from Rotary Club of Namugongo, Rotary Club of Kampala North, definitely. Not only the speaker, but also other members. Pipi Habat Muhumuza, and other members. Thank you for coming. Rotary Club of Nansana, we've had representation from Rotary Club of Rubaga. We've had representation from Rotary Club of Chambogo, Pipi Kotilda, thank you for coming, and Pipi Augustine. We've had representation from Rotary Club of Lugazi. We've had representation all the way from Rotary Club of Nairobi North. Thank you for coming. We've had representation from Rotary Club of Burgere Nambole, Rotary Club of Bwebadia, Rotary Club of Kampala Morning Stars, Rotary Club of Kampala Central, Rotary Club of Sonde, Rotary Club of Muyenga, Rotary Club of Chiwatule, the E-Club, Uganda Global. Thank you for coming. We've had representatives from our Rotaract Club, our Rotaract Club of Kampala West, and also we've had representation from Rotaract Club of Machingi. Thank you for coming, and please come again next Wednesday. If you've not had your club mentioned, please unmute and speak it out. Thank you. Over to you, President.
Thank you, Rotarian Anthony. I'll invite CMP Chow to give us a final toast. Looks like he's left. Okay. President Simon, give us the final toast.
Thank you, President, for the wonderful fellowship that we have had. I propose a toast to Rotary International.
Rotary the world over.
Rotary the world over.
Rotary the world over.
Thank you all for coming and have a good day.
Thank you, President. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Thank you, President, for the wonderful meeting.
Apoyo, Susan.
Apoyo, Muna Tusu.
Have a good day.
Apoyo, Bear.
Bear, thank you.
Thank you, President Susan.
Thank you, President Kate. Thank you for coming.
Thank you, always. Thank you.
I'll catch up with you later.
Good to see all of you.
Thank
Happy New Year.
Yeah. Happy New Year to you.
Thank you, President Susan, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you. Thank you for coming.
It's been a wonderful meeting.
Yes, thank you for coming. It was a wonderful meeting. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, President.
Thank you.
Have a good lunch. Bye.
You too. Bye-bye.
Thank you, PDG Tusu.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Jesse, I see you. You have a delegation supporting you.
Greetings from JB.
Happy New Year, Susan, and everybody.
Thank you.